What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video. And if you're new, hello, my name is Jai. That's J-A-I. And I hope everyone's having a great day or had a great day. If you're not, positive vibes to you. We are back with another video from Mr. Nightmare. 3 unknown creatures saw. Something like that. I'll put it in the title. Y'all know about the title. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Story one.
So this happened on a camping trip with my girlfriend Alicia, my best friend Rodney, and his girlfriend Amanda. My dad told me about a perfect place to go camping right by a big lake surrounded by dense forest. A trail from a nearby parking lot would lead straight to the lake. His directions were straightforward, and it was actually easy to get to the lake. We got there as the sun was on its way down and the sky was turning that beautiful orange. The lake was calming, and the sound of the breeze hitting the leaves was peaceful. We had our tent set up, and there was still a hint of orange in the sky, though it was very dark in the woods by now. There was a slight orange reflection on the calm lake. It was very warm out, and Amanda suggested we all jump in the water. I was kind of up for it, as my dad said it would be perfect to jump in. For that reason, we all brought towels. The girls seemed more eager than Rodney and I, though. The two got into their underwear and walked into the lake, exclaiming it was actually warm. I told them I'd go in after setting up the campfire at least, since we had already gathered some wood. Starting the fire proved to be especially difficult for me, because I just couldn't get the wood to catch. I'm not exactly a Boy Scout. Rodney took over, and as I watched him try to start the fire, one of the girls started screaming and flailing around in the lake. Amanda looked just as confused as Rodney and I. Then Alicia went underwater for a few seconds, and Amanda started to scream she's drowning. I took off my shirt and ran as fast as I could into the water. But when I got to where she was, the water was only up to maybe my waist. I saw her arms still flailing out above the water and splashing about, and I pulled her up above the water. I yelled, "What the hell happened?" She didn't answer right away and ran straight for the campsite, seemingly out of breath. Halfway there, she turned and yelled, "Get out of the water." Amanda and I looked at each other and
Somebody grabbed her.
As I began moving out of the lake, I felt something strong grab around my ankle and try pulling me down. There was a sharp, piercing feeling cutting into my ankle as well.
Ooh.
I yelled in a panic and kicked whatever it was with my free leg until I was able to break free. We made it back to the campsite, and Alicia was already sitting down on a cooler, putting pressure on an apparent wound on her ankle. I sat down on another cooler and checked my ankle, and there was a deep but small gash on the right side of my ankle, which was pouring out blood.
How does people have time to do all this crazy stuff? I just don't understand.
After patching up the wounds, we felt more
And
relaxed
how's he been in
and
the
at
water?
ease. We just wanted to figure out what the hell that was that grabbed us.
He did all this.
I said it might have been an eel. Rodney questioned if eels even live in lakes like this.
Had a snorkel on.
Alicia said it didn't feel like an eel or a fish.
People
It
crazy.
felt more like a claw.
People are crazy.
I got chills as she said it, because I got what she was saying, but how would that make any sense? Regardless, we stuck around because whatever got us was in the water, and we were on land. Nothing could happen now. By this point it was dark out. The sun was completely gone, and the only light was from the fire. We were a couple beers deep, talking about life, about mutual friends, and occasionally bringing up that thing in the water again. All was well, until a splash came from out in the water. We all looked over our shoulders at the same time out to the pitch-black lake. Probably just a fish, we figured. We resumed conversation for a few seconds, but then there was another splash. It didn't sound like a little fish jumping out of the water. It sounded like the kind of splashes you'd hear when a person is walking through waist-deep water. The girls wanted us to go check the lake, so Rodney and I took a couple flashlights and went to the edge of the lake, where we were still hearing noises. With the two lights pointed at the water, we scanned the calm surface of the lake, until Rodney stopped me and said, "What is that?" I looked at where his light was pointed. There was this object in the water. Well, at first I thought it was an object, but then I realized it resembled the head of some creature. Definitely not any kind of creature that would live in a lake. It seemed like it was just sticking its head out of the water.
Oh, wow.
And we could see the reflection of its eyes. It was looking at us. Then it moved, as it rised up slightly out of the lake, making another splashing noise. That's when Rodney and I screamed go to the girls. I remember Rodney saying, "Take all your important stuff and go," which was a smart idea. I took all my valuables and left the tent and bigger things. We ran back down the trail to the parking lot, packed the car, and took off down the parkway. The next day, I returned with my dad to collect the tents, but everything that we left in the campsite was destroyed. The tents were shredded, the coolers were scratched and thrown across the site. I told my dad about the creature in the lake. I showed him the gash in my ankle and asked him what could have done this. He said he had no earthly idea, and we left in a hurry. None of us ever returned to that lake.
My house sits next to a nature preserve on Long Island, New York. I live alone most of the time, besides when my girlfriend who lives out of state comes to visit. Well, I can't say I live completely alone. I have 2 German shepherds, Tate and Moose. They sleep downstairs by the back door of the house. Last week, for 3 nights in a row, I would wake up to the 2 of them barking in the middle of the night at the back door. The first night, I just peeked from the door window into the yard, which was empty. The second night, I actually went outside to the patio to look around, but there wasn't anyone there. On the 3rd night in a row of waking up to barking, I told myself that was it. Someone was creeping around my property every night, causing my dogs to go crazy. I put Tate on his leash and took him out to the yard. Weirdly, he seemed more calm now that he was outside. He wasn't barking at anything. I walked him around the backyard and by the tree line to the woods for a little bit, trying to help him pick up on whatever the 2 had been barking at the past 3 nights. Then he started. By the tree line, he started tugging on his leash and barking at something in the woods. Obviously, I couldn't see too far into the woods as it was nighttime, so I let him lead the way into the woods. If someone were to be trespassing on my property every night, I figured the best way to scare them off would be having my dog chase after them. Tate kept pulling and
Well, that's
barking
very
as we
brave
got
of you,
deeper
but
into the
is
woods.
dog following you?
I was starting to lose my breath just trying to keep up with him.
You following
He
the
seemed to
dog?
be really locked into something specific in front of us. But eventually Tate stopped pulling and barking and just stood there with his ears bent back as if he were in a defensive position. He suddenly looked scared, as if he was looking straight ahead at something. I tried looking ahead into the dark woods, but I could only see so much. There was this cracking of a stick or a small branch a little ahead that confirmed there was a presence with us in the woods. I took this as a time to call out. Whoever's out there, you need to stop trespassing on my property. If you don't, I'll either unleash my dogs on you or call the police. Whichever I feel necessary to do.
Unleash the force.
There was no kind of response or signs of acknowledgement. Just another crunch of a twig or stick being pressed into the ground by something. Once again confirming there was someone or something standing maybe 10 yards away. I whistled to Tate to follow as I turned us around and headed back to the house. Tate kept looking back every 3 seconds. I'd have to pull him forward just to keep us moving. But then I heard a footstep close behind us, and Tate started to growl and bark again. It was now that I truly started to feel threatened. I didn't have my phone on me, I didn't have my flashlight, my only sense of protection was Tate. Then there was this sound, this unexplainable sound. It was this clicking type noise mixed with this humming sound, almost like a giant bug. Tate started going crazy again. He was barking and pulling, but I held him back. I kept looking at what he was trying to lunge towards, and I finally saw something. There was a set of glowing eyes, only the eyes were set very high off the ground, not down low like from a cat or a raccoon. I started to run back towards my house now. I could see the light from my back patio shining through the trees now. I made it through the tree line back to my backyard. I ran Tate to the back door and let him inside. I turned back to the trees at the opposite end of my yard and I just stood there, listening and waiting for anything. A rustle in the bush made me turn my head about 20 degrees to the right. I saw a figure standing in the woods near the tree line. My patio light lit up the outline of the body somewhat. It looked looked like it had the shape of a humanoid-like figure, but it was crouched down, kind of hiding behind a little bush. It had extremely long-looking arms in comparison to the rest of its body. And on the lower half of its face,
I feel like I keep seeing this
all I
picture
saw was
like
black,
all the time.
almost resembling a big gaping mouth. I keep saying it because I knew what I was looking at couldn't be human. I went inside, shut all the blinds, and took my dogs upstairs to my room. I reported an unidentified creature in the preserve to the police. I gave my best description on the phone, and the woman on the other end asked me to call back if the person or creature were to actually enter my private property. Basically, calling the police was for my own peace of mind. But they didn't send anyone. I've been having my dog sleep in my room with me since last week, and there have been no further sightings since. I'll update everyone if anything changes.
My best bet is get some cameras around. Do it in the morning
My wife
time,
and I have lived in our
so you won't
Chapel
be as
Hill,
scared.
Tennessee farmhouse for over 15
Bada
years.
boom, bada bang.
And for
You in
14
the game.
straight years, nothing out of the ordinary ever happened. Our kids have all moved out. It's just me and the wife in the house now. February of 2019, bizarre things started happening. I woke up in the night to my wife shaking me. She said she heard a noise outside the window. She wanted me to go check. I simply walked over to the window, lifted it up, and had myself a look outside.
That always
It was
happens.
chilly out there, so I didn't want to be looking outside for long. But the coast was clear.
Babe, it's no outside.
I shut the window and assured my wife it was okay.
No,
I
why don't you
crawled back
check it
into
out?
bed. Before we could even fall asleep again,
Even though I gotta
there
be
was a
brave
noise that
one,
made
you know,
both of
but
us sit up.
no.
A sharp,
No.
quick click at the window.
Uh-oh.
My wife is no scaredy cat, but she grabbed my arm, clearly worried. She asked me to take the shotgun out there and see who it was.
If she's not a scary
I
cat, then
told
why
her to
should we check
relax,
it out?
and I checked the window one more time.
Like I said.
I was shocked to find a small scratch in the glass from the other side. I said, "Honey, look at this," and she came over. She put her hands over her mouth and said, "Oh my." What did it? We didn't have a clue. Must have been some big animal, I figured. The next morning, I went outside to inspect the outside by the window. There were no footprints in the dirt by the side of the house. Nothing strange at all outside, actually. So we move on to the next night. It was a rainy, warmer night for February. My wife and I tucked in under the sheets again, and once again there was a sound that could be heard over the rain outside. It was this scraping type sound, muffled of course because it was coming from outside. The sound seemed to be moving closer to the window, then it stopped. My wife and I, sitting up again, looked at each other, and she didn't even have to tell me to go outside this time. I took the shotgun from under the bed again, put on my raincoat, and ran outside as fast as my old bones would allow. My wife turned on the light in the bedroom, which gave me enough light to see these huge scrapes in the vinyl siding. They looked exactly like claw marks. Then I looked down into the mud that I was standing in.
Is it
I
worth
noticed
it?
these big feet marks that stopped right before the window, and then turned back in the direction of the woods. I analyzed the marks the best I could, even though they were quickly washing away from the rain. These didn't look like marks from boots, shoes, or any animal that I knew of. It looked like these huge foot marks with claws on the ends. We don't have black bears where we live. 15 years here and we've never seen one, so this just made no sense. I suddenly felt unsafe being out there, even with the shotgun, so I hurried back inside. I told my wife there's some big animal out there, and that as long as we stayed inside, we were safe.
My best bet
We don't have
is
blinds
to
in our bedroom
peek in.
windows.
Oh,
We don't need privacy from anyone.
Oh,
No
never
one comes
mind.
out on the property anyway.
I was just about to say, just
All I
peek
could do was tell my wife to
outside
go
the
to
curtain and
sleep.
see what's really doing the
The next night
damage.
was where things really took the turn for the worst.
next
I
night.
woke up around 3 a.m. My wife was still asleep.
3 a.m.
I sat up, thinking I might have heard something. I realized it was chilly in the room. I looked at the window, and it was open. But that wasn't the first thing I noticed. The first thing I noticed was the head, leaning
What?
through the open window into our bedroom. My best description of the head? Inhuman. For the size and shape. It was bigger, and this had a more conish shape, for facial features. It was just too dark to see any. And it all happened too quickly.
Conehead?
I let out one big scream. The type of scream I hadn't heard leave my own body in decades. I went under the bed for the shotgun, but by then, the thing at the window was already gone. My wife was screaming in reaction to my scream. I ran to the window to slam it shut and twist the lock. I told my wife we're sleeping in our son's old room that night. Believe it or not, this was almost a year ago now, and that creature, whatever it was, has never returned. But for 3 straight days, that thing kept coming back to our window, and on the 3rd night, it was halfway into our bedroom.
Wow. Okay, so you guys, I don't know if these stories are true or not. It reminds me of stories of lost tapes of these unknown creatures who are not recognizable, inhuman, all that orgly, that's not even a word, ogre looking type creatures, monsters. I don't know, but the scariest one was the last one. And I was like, how? When I was just listening, how do people have time? It wasn't even a person; it was a creature. And yeah, but I just don't understand how you have time. I don't know. So tell me guys what you think about this video, and give it a like, a comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. And it's your life. Do what you want and do it positively. Peace. Love you guys.